The Alpha King's arranged bride was called Ugly. When he saw her true form, he couldn't believe it. The kingdom of Erithorn was ruled by moonlight. High stone towers touched the sky, and silver banners moved in the cold wind. At the heart of the kingdom stood the obsidian palace, dark and powerful, like the king who lived inside it. Alpha King Kael Draven was known across all lands as the strongest ruler of his age. His people respected him. His enemies feared him. He had sharp eyes, a calm voice, and a presence that made others lower their heads without being told. He believed in strength. He believed in control. And he did not believe in love. So when the royal council told him he must marry for peace, he agreed without emotion. The southern lands had once been powerful, but their ruling family, House Alaris, had fallen into disgrace. Whispers followed their name. Some said their bloodline carried a curse. Some said the daughters of that house were strange, touched by something unnatural. Still, an alliance was needed, and so, the chosen bride was Lady Seraphine Alaris. Rumors reached the palace long before she did.
They said she was ugly. They said her face was hidden because it was too frightening to see.
They said the moon goddess had marked her family as punishment long ago. Kael listened to the rumors without interest. It did not matter to him if she was beautiful or not. This marriage was not about beauty. It was about peace. The wedding was arranged quickly. On the morning Seraphine arrived, the sky was pale gray. A long silver carriage entered the palace gates, guarded by southern knights dressed in white and gold. The palace courtyard grew silent. Servants whispered behind their hands. Nobles watched from the balconies above. When the carriage door opened, a slim figure stepped out slowly. Lady Seraphine wore a long gown the color of winter frost. A soft silver veil covered her face completely, falling from her head to her shoulders. No skin could be seen. Even her hands were covered with delicate gloves. She moved with quiet grace, not proud, not ashamed, just calm. King Kael stood at the top of the palace steps, watching her. His expression did not change. To him, she looked small, fragile, almost like a shadow against the wide stone courtyard. She stopped before him and bowed her head. "My king," she said softly. Her voice surprised him. It was not weak. It was steady, smooth, like calm water. There was no fear in it.
"You may rise," Kael replied. She lifted her head, but the veil still hid her face.
For a brief second, something strange happened. The wind, which had been strong all morning, suddenly stopped. The silver banners fell still. The wolves carved into the palace pillars seemed almost alive in the silence. Then the moment passed. Kael turned and walked inside without offering his arm. Seraphine followed. The wedding ceremony was held that evening in the great hall. Hundreds of candles burned along the walls. Musicians played soft, slow music. Nobles from every region filled the long tables, watching with curious eyes. Seraphine stood beside Kael before the ancient altar of the moon. The high priest spoke words of unity, of peace, of strength between kingdoms. Kael repeated his vows clearly. When it was Seraphine's turn, her voice did not shake. "I vow loyalty to the throne of Vyrethorn.
I vow honesty. I vow to protect this kingdom in the ways I can."
Her words were simple, but something in them felt deeper. When the ceremony ended, applause filled the hall, yet whispers quickly followed. Why does she hide her face? Have you seen her skin? Is it true she cannot show herself in daylight? Kael heard the whispers. He did nothing. The marriage feast began. Food and wine were served. Laughter grew louder. Music became faster. But Seraphine did not join the celebration. She sat quietly at the king's side, hands folded gently in her lap. She did not eat much. She did not speak unless spoken to. And yet, people kept looking at her, not only because of the veil. There was something else. The candle flames near her seemed brighter. The air around her felt cooler. One of the noblewomen leaned toward another and whispered, "She feels strange." Across the table, a powerful lord named Cedric Vale stood up with a glass in his hand.
He was known for his pride and sharp tongue.
"My king," Cedric said loudly, smiling in a way that was not kind, "we are honored by your marriage."
Peace is always welcome, but perhaps we are also curious. The hall grew quiet.
Curious? Kale asked calmly. Cedric looked toward Seraphine.
Will our new queen bless us with the sight of her face? After all, a kingdom should not fear its own queen. Soft laughter followed. Seraphine remained still. Kale's jaw tightened slightly, but he did not speak.
Cedric continued, "Surely there is no harm in removing a veil among friends." The tension in the room thickened.
All eyes turned to Seraphine. Slowly she stood. The music stopped. She lifted her hands, not to remove the veil, but to rest them lightly at her sides.
"My lord," she said gently, "a face does not determine loyalty, nor does beauty decide wisdom."
Virathorn does not need my face. It needs my devotion. The room felt colder. Cedric's smile faded. Before anyone could speak again, something strange happened. The tall windows along the great hall began to glow. Moonlight poured inside, bright and silver, far stronger than normal. Gasps echoed through the hall. The candle flames bent toward Seraphine, as if pulled by unseen wind. Kale felt it clearly this time. Power, not loud, not wild, but deep, ancient. Seraphine did not move. The moonlight touched the edge of her veil, and for the smallest moment, Kale thought he saw light beneath it. Not fire, light like stars. The windows returned to normal. The candles straightened, and the hall was silent. Cedric lowered his eyes. Kale stood slowly. The feast is over, he said in a cold voice. No one argued.
Later that night, the palace corridors were quiet.
Seraphine walked alone toward her new chambers. The marble floors reflected moonlight from the high windows. She paused at a balcony overlooking the royal gardens. The moon hung full and bright in the sky. She reached up slowly and touched the edge of her veil. For a moment, her fingers trembled. Then she lowered her hand.
I am still bound, she whispered to the night.
Behind her, footsteps echoed. She did not turn. You caused that light, Kale said from the shadows. His voice was not angry. It was controlled. Seraphine faced him. The moon responds to many things, my king. Do not speak in riddles. She was silent for a moment. Then she said quietly, Have you ever wondered why my family fell from power?
"It was said your bloodline carried a curse." "Yes," she replied softly. "That is what they chose to call it." A long silence passed between them.
Kale stepped closer. Even through the veil, he felt something pulling at him. Not fear, not desire. Recognition. You will not bring danger to my kingdom, he said firmly. Seraphine lifted her head. I would rather break myself than harm this land. Kale could feel it, but honesty did not erase mystery.
Then remove the veil, he demanded quietly.
The air changed again. Seraphine's hands slowly tightened. I cannot, she said.
"Cannot or will not?"
She looked toward the moon. If I remove it before the right time, she whispered, you will no longer see me as you do now. Kale's voice hardened. I barely see you at all. For the first time, something in her posture shifted. A small hurt, quickly hidden. That, she said softly, is safer for us both. Before Kale could answer, a distant howl echoed from the forest beyond the palace walls. Not one wolf.
Many, And they were not howling in anger.
They were howling in a greeting. KL froze. The wolves of Verethorn only bowed to one bloodline, his. Yet tonight, their voices did not sound like they called to him. They called to her. Seraphine closed her eyes briefly. They feel it, she whispered.
Feel what?
Kale demanded.
She opened her eyes, though he still could not see them clearly through the veil.
Change. A cold wind rushed across the balcony, lifting the edges of her silver gown. For a single second, the veil shifted slightly. Kale caught the faintest glimpse of glowing skin beneath. Not scarred, not twisted. Radiant. His breath caught. Then the veil fell back into place. The moment ended. Seraphine stepped away from him. Good night, my king. She walked down the corridor, disappearing into shadow. Kael remained alone on the balcony. The wolves howled again, and deep within his chest, something ancient stirred. That night when sleep finally came, Kael dreamed. He stood in a dark forest beneath a blood-red moon. Before him stood a figure of silver light, wings spread wide across the sky. A voice echoed through the trees. You have bound yourself to more than a bride.
Alpha King. The silver figure turned, and though he could not see her face clearly, he knew.
Kael woke suddenly, breath heavy. Moonlight filled his chamber. Outside, the wolves were still howling. And for the first time in his life, the Alpha King felt uncertain. The morning after the Blood Moon banquet, the palace of Verethorn was unusually quiet. Servants whispered as they went about their tasks. Courtiers glanced nervously toward the newly married queen, Lady Seraphina Laris. Her presence was no longer merely mysterious. It was unsettling. Even Kael felt it. The Alpha King, who rarely lost composure, paced in his private study, hands clasped behind his back. The memory of moonlight striking the edge of Seraphine's veil refused to fade. Something about her, something inside her, had shifted the air in the great hall. He had seen power, ancient, deep, impossible power, yet he did not understand it. Kael had ruled all of Verethorn with iron discipline, commanding loyalty from soldiers and fear from enemies. He had never bowed to anyone, and now, somehow, he felt drawn to someone he barely knew, and someone whose face he had not fully seen. The king's thoughts were interrupted by the quiet sound of footsteps. Seraphine appeared in the doorway of his study. Her veil was still in place, her silver gown brushing the floor. She looked calm, almost serene. "My king," she said softly, "you wish to see me? My Kael," gestured to a chair.
Sit! Tell me about your family.
Why did they fall from power? Why did they vanish from the world? Seraphine hesitated, then walked to the chair across from him. Her hands rested lightly in her lap. "The people call it a curse," she began. "But it is not what they think. My family, my house, was never cursed to bring misfortune. We were chosen by the moon goddess herself." Kael raised an eyebrow. "Chosen? For what?" "To carry power too great for ordinary humans," she replied. Her voice was calm, yet something in her tone made the room feel colder, as if the walls themselves were listening.
"Power that cannot be tamed by kings or armies."
"My ancestors learned to hide it. They were afraid the world would see them and destroy them." Kael leaned back, arms crossed. "And you? Why do you hide it?"
She lowered her gaze.
"Because it is not yet the time. If I reveal myself fully, the world will tremble, and perhaps even reject me." He studied her silently. For the first time in his life, Kael wondered if there was someone stronger than him, not in sword or in army, but in presence. Someone who could stand beside him, or even above him. The room was silent. Then she looked up. "You have seen a spark of it," she said. The moonlight last night, it was only a fraction of what I am. One day, you will understand. But for now, you must trust me. Kayal's jaw tightened. Trust you? I am a king. I do not trust easily. And yet you married me, she said softly, almost a whisper. He did not answer. That evening, the palace courtyard was alive with activity. Soldiers trained in the yard, guards patrolled the walls, and the air smelled faintly of smoke and fresh snow. Seraphine wandered through the gardens, her veil trailing behind her, and Kale followed silently.
You move as though you belong to the night,
Kale observed. She paused beside a fountain, water shimmering in the moonlight. The night is where I am strongest, she said. The moon, it calls to me. The moon has nothing to do with the queen's power. It is the king who protects the land, not the sky. Perhaps. But sometimes even kings must see what the moon shows them before they can protect anything. Kale felt an unease he could not name. Her words were simple, but they carried a weight he could not dismiss. And then, just as the wind picked up, he saw it again. The faint glow beneath her veil. A shiver ran down his spine. He was a man used to command, used to understanding every threat before it came. And yet this woman could not be predicted. The next days were tense. At court, Seraphine's presence began to unsettle the nobles. Some whispered that she was dangerous. Others, curious, tried to find a way to see beneath her veil. Kale noticed every glance, every subtle gesture, and protected her silently, without acknowledging it. One afternoon, as the court gathered for a council meeting, a powerful noble named Lord Cedric Vale rose from his seat. Cedric was proud and sharp-tongued, known for testing kings with words rather than swords. "My king," Cedric said, bowing mockingly. "Our new queen is unusual. Perhaps we might see her face? Surely she would not hide from those she calls friends," the hall murmured. Some nobles laughed softly. Others looked uneasy. Kale's hand rested on the hilt of his sword, hidden beneath his robes. He spoke slowly, controlled, every word cutting like ice. "She will show her face when the time is right," Kale said.
and until then, her loyalty and service are enough. If any of you cannot respect that, perhaps you should leave my court."
He bowed stiffly. "As you wish, my king." The council resumed, but the tension lingered. Kyle watched Seraphine from across the hall. Her hands were folded quietly. She did not appear angry or afraid. She simply waited. That night, Kale could not sleep. He walked the corridors of the palace, silent and alone. The torchlight flickered against the dark stone walls. His thoughts returned to the glow he had glimpsed beneath Seraphine's veil. Was it magic, divine power, or something darker? He found her on the balcony overlooking the forest. The night was still, silver moonlight bathing the snow-covered trees.
You should not be out here alone, Kale said.
Seraphine did not turn immediately. "I am never truly alone," she replied. "Not while the moon watches."
The moon cannot protect you from enemies of this kingdom. No, she said softly. But it can remind me who I am.
Kale's gaze lingered on her, and for a moment, the world outside the balcony, the guards, the wolves, the palace itself, faded. He only saw her, silent beneath the moonlight, silver veil glowing faintly.
"You do not fear me?" she said, turning to face him. Even with the veil, her voice held a calm certainty that made him pause. "I do not fear what I cannot understand," he admitted, "but I will not let anything threaten you."
Seraphine's hands lifted slightly, brushing the edge of her veil.
"You cannot protect me forever, Kale Draven," she said. "Not from what waits beyond these walls."
"And not from myself."
He frowned. What do you mean? She did not answer immediately.
Instead, her gaze turned to the distant mountains, where shadowed forests stretched as far as the eye could see.
My family's power, it does not stay hidden forever, she whispered.
If the wrong people learn the truth, it could destroy everything you rule and everyone you love.
Then we will stop them, he said firmly. No one will harm this kingdom.
No one will touch you. Her voice softened, almost sad.
It is not that simple. Some forces are older than kings and stronger than armies.
Cale felt a strange pull in his chest, like a weight he had never known. A desire to protect, yes, but also something more. Awe, something he had never felt for anyone. The wind stirred, and Seraphine's veil fluttered. For a brief instant, Cale thought he saw her skin glow faintly beneath the silver fabric. Stars shimmering in motion, then it was gone. Cale's heart pounded. He was not used to uncertainty. He was not used to feeling small, yet something in him could not look away. Days passed, and strange events continued to occur around Seraphine. Wolves in the palace grounds bowed their heads when she passed. Candles flickered and burned brighter when she entered a room. Even the wind seemed to follow her steps. Cale observed silently, watching her from the shadows. He could not deny it any longer.
The rumors had been wrong. She was not ugly.
She was powerful, and she was different from anyone he had ever known. One evening, as Cale walked through the northern corridors, he heard a soft musical sound. Following it, he found Seraphine in a private courtyard. Her hands hovered over a small stone fountain. Moonlight struck her, and the water sparkled as if responding to her touch.
You have power, Cale said, stepping closer. I see it now.
And yet, you are not afraid. I should be, Cale admitted, but I am not, and I do not know why. She smiled faintly. Perhaps because strength recognizes strength. Cale felt a shiver of something unfamiliar. Respect, awe, longing. Before either could speak further, a howl erupted from the forest beyond the palace walls. It was not one wolf, not a pack of ordinary wolves. Their howls were strong, deep, and familiar. A call that resonated through the night. Seraphine's eyes widened beneath her veil.
They have found me,
she whispered. Cale stepped forward instinctively.
Who? The ones who know the truth of my family, she said, and they will not be gentle.
The wind whistled through the trees. Shadows moved in the courtyard. Cale reached for her hand.
Then we face them together, he said.
Seraphine hesitated. Then she allowed him to take her hand. For the first time, their fingers touched. A warmth spread through Cale, unbidden. A bond he had not expected, yet could not deny. The wolves' howls grew louder. Seraphine drew in a deep breath. The veil.
It will not protect me much longer.
Cale's jaw tightened. Then you will show me what lies beneath it, he said. Her gaze met his. Calm, sad, powerful. I will, she said softly.
But only when the time is right, and not before.
A shadow moved at the edge of the courtyard. Cale and Seraphine froze. Something had entered the palace grounds. Something dangerous. The first true test of Seraphine's hidden power, and of Cale's protection, was about to begin. The moon hung low over the kingdom of Virathorn, silver light spilling over the frost-covered trees. The palace, once a place of order, now felt like a stage for forces beyond mortal control. Kyle Draven, Alpha King of Virathorn, stood in the courtyard, his hand still gripping Seraphine's. Together they faced the shadows at the edge of the gardens. Wolves stirred in the darkness, their eyes reflecting the moonlight like twin fires. But these were no ordinary wolves. Their howls carried power older than the kingdom itself, a sound that resonated deep in Kale's chest, reminding him of his own bloodline, but also showing him that he might not be the strongest in the world anymore.
They know me,
Seraphine whispered, her voice steady but tinged with unease.
They know what my family is, what I am.
And will they harm us?
They will not harm me unless they are provoked, she said, lifting her chin. But their presence is a warning. They will test your strength. They will test your will. Kale's hand tightened around hers.
I am ready. But she only gave a small, sad smile. Are you ready to face what you cannot fight with a sword? From the darkness emerged figures cloaked in silver, their faces hidden beneath hoods. They circled the courtyard silently, yet their presence pressed against the edges of the night. Kale recognized them from the legends whispered in the southern lands. The Moon Sentinels, guardians of the ancient magic Seraphine's family carried. Why are they here? Kale demanded, stepping in front of her instinctively.
They are not enemies, Seraphine said quickly, but they will judge me, and you. The Sentinels stopped, their leader stepping forward. Even in the darkness, Kale could feel the power radiating from him.
You have brought the blood of the moon goddess back into mortal lands, the leader said. We have watched. The veil cannot hide it forever.
Seraphine lowered.
I know. Kale's voice hardened. Then leave her be.
She is under my protection. The Sentinel's gaze shifted to Kale. You are Alpha King, he said. But do you understand what you are protecting? Power beyond mortal kings. Power that can unmake kingdoms. And yet, your will stands against ours. Kyle squared his shoulders. I do not bow to fear, and I do not step aside from my queen. Seraphine's hand pressed gently against his chest. Kale, she whispered, do not fight them with anger. They test not your strength, but your heart. The night grew colder. The wolves howled again, and the wind carried their voices through the courtyard. One of the sentinels raised a hand. A silver light bloomed from his palm, illuminating the courtyard. Kale felt the air tremble. Magic, old and wild, filled the space between them. The power brushed against him like fire, making him feel exposed, small, human. Seraphine stepped forward. Her voice rang clear and calm.
Enough!
You will not harm him, not while I stand here. The sentinels paused. A hush fell over the courtyard. Then, slowly, the leader nodded. You have courage, he said. But courage alone is not enough. Show us your truth. Before Kale could react, Seraphine reached up and lifted her veil. The courtyard went silent. Beneath the silver fabric, her true form was revealed. Skin pale as moonlight, shimmering with faint silver markings like constellations. Her hair flowed like liquid starlight. Her eyes glowed with soft luminescence. And behind her, wings, delicate yet powerful, made of silver fire, unfolded gracefully. The sentinels fell to one knee. Even Kale felt a tremor run through him, a mixture of awe, fear, and disbelief. Seraphine's power did not shout or demand. It radiated, silent, infinite. Kale took a step forward, instinctively reaching for her hand again.
Seraphine. She looked at him, calm, yet commanding.
Do not be afraid, she said. This is who I am. But it does not make me less human. It does not change what I feel. Oh, I choose. All his life he had measured strength by swords and armies, by fear and dominance. Now he realized that true strength could be quiet, luminous, and unstoppable. The wolves in the garden bowed low, heads touching the frost. Even the trees seemed to lean closer, as if recognizing her presence. The sentinels stepped back, giving her space. Their voices, when they spoke, were reverent.
"You have awakened fully," the leader said. "The moon's blessing is yours."
But with it comes responsibility. You cannot hide, and those who seek to harm you will come. Seraphine's eyes flickered to Kale. I knew this moment would come, and now I must ask you to trust me. Kyle swallowed hard. I do, but I am not sure I understand it all yet.
She smiled faintly. Then you will learn.
As I will. The night was far from over. The disturbance in the courtyard was only the beginning. Word had already spread through the palace. The queen's true form was revealed. Whispers of her power traveled like wildfire. Some were in awe, others in fear. Kale realized this meant enemies, both within the court and beyond the kingdom. Those who had mocked her, those who had called her ugly, would now seek her for power, not for love. He felt an unfamiliar tension coil in his chest. He had always known control, always known dominance. But now, with Seraphine beside him, he felt unprepared. And yet, he would not let her face danger alone. As the hours passed, Seraphine led him to a hidden garden within the palace walls. Here, magic had long lived, protected by ancient wards. Streams of silver water reflected the moonlight, and flowers glowed faintly in the night. This place belonged to my family, she said. It is safe here for now. Kale surveyed the garden. Even in the faint light, he felt the energy. It was alive, breathing. And yet, it felt familiar to him, almost as if it had been waiting for him too. Your power. It's incredible, Kale admitted quietly.
I have never seen anything like it.
Seraphine turned to him.
And yet, it frightens you.
No, not fear. Respect, awe, and something else I do not yet understand. She smiled. Then you are ready to see me, not just as queen or bride, but as I truly am, and perhaps, in time, you will see what I have hidden from the world. Kale stepped closer, drawn to her. He reached for her hand once more. Their fingers brushed. The warmth between them was unexpected, yet comforting.
The world will not accept you easily, Kale said. There will be those who want to control you or destroy you.
But I do not need their acceptance. I only need to choose who stands with me willingly. Kale looked into her glowing eyes and realized the truth. Power did not make her distant or untouchable. It made her real. And he wanted to be the one who stood by her, without fear, without domination, without doubt. Suddenly, a howl split the air, not a single wolf, but many. They surged toward the palace, circling the walls, their eyes reflecting silver light. Kale's instincts flared. He reached for his sword. They are coming! Seraphine placed a hand on his chest, stopping him. No, she said firmly. This is not a fight for swords. This is a test of trust and understanding.
Stand with me and do not strike until I command.
Kyle nodded, though every muscle in his body ached to act.
The wolves paused at the edge of the garden, their leader stepping forward.
A massive wolf, taller than any normal beast, with silver eyes and fur that shimmered like starlight. Seraphine bowed slightly. You have come, she said quietly. The wolf lowered its head, acknowledging her. Then it turned to Kale. Its eyes seemed to look into his very soul. Kyle felt a chill run through him. Not fear, respect, recognition, and something he could not name. A warning. The queen spoke, her voice steady.
This is your world too, Alpha King. But here...
You are not the strongest. You must learn humility, as I must learn restraint. Dragons of the northern lands, rival kings, but nothing had ever humbled him like this moment. The wolf's gaze lingered. Then it disappeared into the shadows, followed by the others. The threat was gone. For now. But Kael knew one truth clearly. Power was no longer measured by dominance alone, and Seraphine would show him a world he could not have imagined. He took a deep breath and looked at her. Then we face it, together.
She smiled faintly, wings of silver fire brushing the night.
Together, she whispered. And in the distance, the moon gleamed brighter, as if watching and waiting. The morning light touched Virathorn with a cold silver glow. The palace seemed quiet, but the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. Word had spread. Queen Seraphine Alaris had revealed her true form. Even the bravest knights whispered in awe and fear. And beyond the palace walls, ancient forces stirred, drawn by her light. Kael Draven, Alpha King, stood in the highest tower. He watched the sunrise over the frost-covered kingdom, his mind heavy with thoughts he had never allowed before. His kingdom, his people, his power. Everything was in motion, threatened by forces older than any law, older than any king. Yet he did not fear. He had never felt this kind of responsibility before. Not just for himself, but for someone else. For Seraphine. The queen walked into the tower chamber quietly, her silver hair catching the morning light. Pabs, the wings of starlight behind her back, were folded but still glimmered faintly, a reminder of the divine power she carried. Her eyes met his, calm yet piercing, as if she could see through every doubt he had ever held. "You are awake early?" she said softly. Kael turned to face her.
I could not sleep. There is much to prepare.
"Prepare for what?" she asked, sensing the tension in his body.
Kael took a deep breath.
"The forces that will come for you, for this kingdom. I have fought battles before, but nothing like this."
And if we fail?
Seraphine stepped closer. "You will not fail. Not if we stand together. Not as a king to a queen. Not as a protector to someone he guarded, but as a man to a woman who had changed everything about his world." "I do not know if I am enough," he admitted quietly. "I have ruled. By fear, but your power. It is beyond anything I have known." Her hand lifted, touching his chest. "Then you must learn a new kind of strength," she said softly.
The kind that does not dominate, the kind that protects, even when it means letting go.
Kael shivered. He had never considered such a thing. Kings do not let go. Alpha wolves do not let go. And yet, looking at her, he understood the truth. That afternoon, the palace gates were surrounded. Shadowed figures moved like mist across the outer walls. Rumors of Seraphine's power had reached distant lands. Sorcerers, warriors, and those who sought to control her came to claim her. Kael gathered his knights in the great hall.
"No one enters the palace without my command,"
he said, his voice firm.
"And those who attempt it will face me first."
The knights bowed, but Kael could feel a tension he had never felt before. This battle was not merely with swords. It was with forces beyond human strength, beyond mortal armies. Seraphine stood beside him, calm as ever. "Kael," she whispered, "we cannot fight them in the usual way. You must trust me." Kael's brow furrowed. "Trust you? I have always trusted in strength and control." She smiled faintly. Sometimes true strength is letting go. As the attackers reached the outer courtyard, Seraphine raised her hands. Silver light flowed from her palms. cascading like moonlight over the frost-covered stones. Wolves howled in response, circling the attackers and keeping them at bay. Kaal watched, awed. Not a weapon, not an army, yet her power was more effective than any sword. Yet he noticed something else. Each surge of her power drained her. She was strong, but even she was not unlimited. He stepped forward.
I will stand with you, he said.
No,
she said softly. Not with swords, Kael, with heart. Kael paused, unsure what she meant.
Her voice rang clear across the courtyard. I choose to remain mortal.
I choose to stay in this world, with him.
The attackers faltered, confused. Their power, drawn to her divinity, hesitated because she chose her own path. Kael realized then what she meant. Strength was no longer measured by control, by domination, or even by magic. It was measured by choice, by courage, by love. Hours passed. The palace survived, but the threat had not disappeared. The attackers had retreated, regrouping in the shadows, waiting for a new opportunity. Kael and Seraphine walked through the palace gardens afterward, alone. Moonlight still touched the frost, sparkling faintly like silver dust.
You did more than fight today, Kael said quietly.
You saved this kingdom. We shook her head. We saved it together. Kael stopped. No. I followed you, and yet I had no idea what I was doing. You guided everything, and yet you allowed me to choose my path alongside you.
I've never felt such humility or such strength.
Seraphine looked at him with a faint smile.
That is what it means to be a queen, and a king who loves wisely, not just rules wisely.
And what do you ask of me now? To trust, she said simply. To love, to rule not by fear, but by choice. Kael took a deep breath. Then I choose you, and I will do so, even if it costs me everything. Storm clouds gathered beyond the mountains. Kael sensed the power stirring again. The moonlight bent strangely, as if responding to Seraphine's presence. She looked up at the sky.
It begins,
she whispered. Kael looked at her. Kael looked at her.
Begins? The moon goddess tests those who defy destiny, she said. I am no longer hidden. My power calls others. And now?
The final trial approaches. Kael clenched his fists. Whatever comes, we face it together. Seraphine reached up, touching his chest. Together, she agreed. The trial came at the stroke of midnight. A great shadow descended over the palace, darker than any night. Winds howled like 1,000 wolves. The temperature dropped. Even Kael, who had faced countless battles, felt the chill of something ancient. From the shadows emerged figures taller than men, cloaked in darkness, with eyes glowing red. They were emissaries of the old gods, summoned by Seraphine's awakening. Seraphine stepped forward, wings of silver fire unfurling behind her. Her glow lit the courtyard.
You will not harm this kingdom,
she said, voice calm and full of authority. I am mortal by choice. I am here to stay. The emissaries advanced. Their power was overwhelming. Kael's men faltered. Kael felt a sudden pull in his chest, a primal force, the first wolf's legacy within him. He realized then what he had to do. His alpha power could help Seraphine, but only if he surrendered it forever. He drew a deep breath. I will give it to protect her, he whispered to himself. Kael stepped into the center of the courtyard. Magic thrummed around him, the first wolf's power coursing through his veins. He could feel the strength, the dominance, the ability to command armies, and fear, but he knew what must be done. With a silent command, he released it. The power left him like a storm leaving the earth. He fell to his knees, no longer the strongest Alpha King in the realm, Seraphine ran to him. Kale! You? He nodded.
To save you, to save the kingdom.
I am no longer, but I am still your king, and still yours. Her wings glimmered brighter, not with power reclaimed, but with gratitude and love. She touched his face gently. You chose love over power. That is the truest strength. The emissaries recoiled, sensing no threat from Kael. Seraphine's glow softened, no longer threatening, no longer divine in a way that would unmake the world. She had chosen mortality and love over dominance. The courtyard grew still. Silence settled over the palace. Kael rose, weak but determined. He reached for Seraphine's hand. We are together, he said. Together. She echoed, smiling faintly. The kingdom had changed. Not because of conquest, not because of power, but because two hearts had chosen each other above all else. In the days that followed, Kael and Seraphine walked through the palace together. The court no longer whispered with fear, but with respect. The kingdom thrived. Wolves still howled in the forests, bowing to the queen's silver light, yet also to the king who had learned humility. Kael, once the Alpha King feared by all, now ruled with balance. Seraphine, once hidden behind a veil, now ruled openly, but chose to remain human, mortal, and beside him. They had faced magic, destiny, and forces older than kings, and through it all they had learned the truth. Power is nothing without choice. Strength is nothing without love. And redemption is found when one is willing to surrender the throne within themselves to protect what truly matters. The night sky stretched over Virathorn, silver and calm. Stars glittered faintly, the moon hanging full and serene. In the quiet, a whisper carried on the wind, barely audible. The first wolf is gone, but something older awakens. Kael held Seraphine close. She rested her head against his chest.
We will face it.
Together, she replied, and beneath the silver moonlight, they knew the kingdom, and their hearts would never be the same again.